Ahoy there, Gummy here! Today I'll be heavily modding the Epomaker GK64, the 60% arrow keyed version of the GK108 that I have built previously. This board is probably the most popular entry point down the rabbit hole. The GK64 comes in at a wallet-friendly $70 for the wide bare bones version. It comes with plate mount stabilizers and a steel plate that has an interchangeable spacebar module. I couldn't find my 3-key split spacebar module to show you guys, but it's a thing. Anyways, you also get a PCB that has hot swap sockets with north-facing LEDs and 5-pin switch support. The case is made out of ABS plastic and has a 6-degree typing angle. All up, it's a neat little package that's great value for the price, and with a heavy dose of mods, it can be thucky to boot. To keep with the wallet-conscious theme, I have chosen the Akko Matcha green switches for this build. They weigh in at 22 cents a switch and come beautifully packaged contrary to the cost. These are a 3-pin linear switch that actuate at 50 grams with minimal scratch. Here is the stock sound test. They're pretty impressive stock and make for a great budget switch. Still, they can be upgraded with lube, which I have done with the usual treatment of Krytox 205G0 on the housing and stems and Krytox 105G0 on the springs. I didn't film them as there is no housing wobble, which is another plus. Here is the modded sound test. To disassemble, remove the 7 black screws which corresponds with the white case standoffs and the 10 silver screws that correspond with the gold PCB standoffs. Once that's done, first remove the spacebar module to enable easier removal of the steel plate. Then lift up and separate the PCB from the case. Mod-wise, we're going to start with the stabilizers as always. The OEM plate mounts are very meh, so I replaced them with the trusty Durock plate mount stabs. To get the best performance out of the Durock stabs, I Holee modded and lubed them. Next comes the PE foam and tape mod, as well as the plate foam. Note that you'll need to trim the outer ring of the plate foam to make space for the O-ring. O-ring? What's an O-ring? Well, that is probably the most interesting mod and will change the mounting style of the board. By default, this is a tray mount with 11 standoffs and hard mounting points on the case, which negatively affect the sound profile of the board and leads to a very stiff typing experience. Instead, we'll be using a Gummy O-ring to mount the board. If you live in the US, you can buy these pre-made. Unfortunately, I don't, so I made mine by cutting 2 O-rings that are 3.5mm thick and 110mm in inner diameter and stapling them together. The listing that I bought these from didn't have the hardness specifications, but I'm pretty sure mine are 70 Duracell. If you can, get the 30 Duracell one as it'll affect the flex of the board. Gummy O-ring mounting the board is meant to give you a pretty flexy typing experience, but because my O-rings were 70 Duracell, this mod didn't quite deliver as expected in this aspect. Moving on to the case portion of this mod, we'll be removing all the standoffs and excess plastic. You'll notice that of the 11 standoffs, 4 have threads. We'll be unscrewing the 4 threads first, as we'll need these later on for the spacebar module. Now grab a plastic cutter and start the removal process. Once all the plastic is removed, ideally you'd want to sand down the case until smooth, but my sandpaper didn't arrive in time, so this will be my end product. Next, you want to shave down the hole for the USB-C port, as the O-ring mount will cause this to misalign otherwise. Ideally, you want to use a plastic filer to do this in an aesthetically pleasing way, but I only have my cutter, so it didn't turn out looking the best. Still, it gets the job done though. In terms of case dampening, I tried adding aluminium foil, but it didn't do anything, so you can skip this step. The more important part is a 5mm thick EVA foam, which definitely helps add thought to the board. To reassemble, start with the top part and lay down the PE foam on the PCB, followed by the plate foam. Now put in the 4 threads for the spacebar module and screw it in. Then line up the steel plate and screw in the 6 screws. Next, put in the switches to further help the structural integrity of the PCB and plate combination. Now, carefully slide the O-ring around this structure, taking care not to put the stapled sections around the corners. Side note here, I know some of you will question how secure the spacebar module is, as the 4 threads kind of just stick out the bottom of the PCB and floats, but with the O-ring mount, it'll stay in place fine. For the bottom part, lay in the EVA foam and mount the top structure by gently pressing it into the case, being careful to fit the USB-C port into the hole first. Finish off the build by putting on the keycaps. I chose the XDA Shiba Inu Keycaps as they're super cute and the wider surface area of this profile helps add thought to the board. When I first started on this build, I was nervous about rendering the board useless, as a crucial part to the mod was removing the standoffs, and if something misaligned, then I couldn't just unremove them. Luckily, it turned out fine and I really enjoy how the board sounds. As always, any and all feedback is welcome. Next video will be up in 2 weeks. On to the sound test in 3, 2, 1.